Okay, lot to say about Dick Crum, Richard Crum, or Uncle Dick, like so many of us like to call him. An amazing person, so talented, who spoke at least a dozen languages. He made a professional career out of being a translator and an editor for various high-tech companies. I remember him telling me that he was translating or supervising projects of an entire manual of American helicopter that had to be translated in a Vietnamese language or something like that. He was involved with that. I remember him calling me once to ask what the French Canadian equivalent would be to some of the characters in Walt Disney movies, since he had been also asked to work on a contract with the Walt Disney World in Florida and so on. So, but certainly before that, he was already somebody that influenced me a lot when I started my interest in folk dance, international folk dance, and Balkan. I remember attending a workshop with Dick in Montreal in 1963 or so. And he was the big star, of course, with his basic dances, which had been published on the Folk Dancer label with Michael Herman. A lot of people knew him from the Maine Folk Dance Camp, as it was known then. And Montreal was a place that he regularly came to teach. And I remember going to New York City, I think in 1965, if I remember correctly, where Dick was often the special guest and coordinator of what was the equivalent of the Colo Festival in New York City at Michael Herman's famous folk dance house. This was like a building on West 16th Street in Manhattan, where Marianne and Michael Herman had their base, and that was a place where they taught folk dancing, had parties. When professional ensembles came from all over the world, that's where they would end up after the concert for after parties. But anyways, I went to one of those Colo festivals with a bunch of folk dancers from Montreal and got to spend some time with Dick Crum. And I was always amazed at his amazing quality of how he was able to teach, break down steps, and do it in such a pleasant, humorous way very often, which everyone was able to follow him and get to appreciate what he was trying to teach us. But those parties were great. It was an annual event with the Banat Tamburica Orchestra, which was a band that was featured on many of his early Colo recordings on the Folk Dancer label. And this was all with live music, in the mid-'60s. It was already something not that common. And I remember being very excited. Later on, when I was more involved in the folk dance scene in Montreal, I invited Dick to come and teach a couple of times in Montreal for weekend workshops. And at that time, it was already in the 70s, and he wasn't so much interested. He said he was too busy with his new jobs and felt that he had nothing to contribute to the folk dance repertoire and so on. And I had to tell him, no, you can teach whatever you want. Any of your old dances, people would so much enjoy dancing with you. So that was great. So in that sense, Dick was really an important influence in my folk dance teaching career. I got to learn a lot from the way he broke down the steps, the expressions. I mean, we all heard about his famous kind of trademark expressions that are still mentioned, like dancing inside your shoes, get your papers here, mixed pickles, the ethnic police, and all of these terminology which he used, which I think someone even published a little lexicon of the famous Dick Crum quotes at some point, and I wish I could find a copy of it somewhere. But these were classics. Anyways, so he was important. He was a mentor in many ways. We became good friends. I had the pleasure of teaching with him at various camps and workshops later on. He was an amazing choreographer. Let's not forget his important work with the Duquesne University Tamburissans in Pittsburgh, where he was sort of their artistic consultant for so many years. Another group he worked with a lot and put together some wonderful performing suites, including a Bulgarian one, which was really great, with the Aman Folk Ensemble in Los Angeles. So he really got to do a lot, and he will be remembered by so many of us, if not in person, at least in name. Check out your dance descriptions. If it's a Yugoslav dance, a Serbian kolo, Croatian dance, there's a good chance his name is in that dance description, because he might have introduced the dance back as early as in the 1950s or 60s. So I want to personally thank Dick Crum for everything he did for recreational and Balkan folk dance in North America. Thank you, Dick.